Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at some Game 3 action here. We've got the Cavs and the Pacers in this one. Also going to be bringing you the other episode, has the game for Friday night as well in the Western Conference, the Nuggets and the Thunder. So make sure you are subbed to that channel. Continue to follow along with us the rest of this postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into what we've got here. We've got plenty of questionable tags on the docket for the Cavs still, but let's get into what we know and what we're betting on here for Friday.
Yeah, it sounds like all three of their guys are going to return here or try, with the season clearly on the line. But yeah, I mean, my angle either way is fourth quarter under 56.5 points for both these games, actually. But I mean, that's very high for the playoffs. I actually trust it a lot more here in this Eastern Conference game. Because, you look at the history with the Cavs when they might be on fire in the first three quarters, but if they're playing a legitimate opponent, not the Miami Heat, like the fourth quarter, it's going to slow down in the playoffs. We're talking 22.7 points per game in the fourth quarter last playoffs. Their Boston series totals between the two of them were 43.8, none above 46. So yes, Indy is driving this total. They have lots of high totals. They have lots of wild finishes. Still only 54 points per game in these first two here. So they would have gone under in game one. They would have gone over by the hook here just because Tyrese Halliburton's miracle in game two. So, I mean, you might like the over for the game. It's not necessarily like I don't think it's going to hit. Like it could just be on a pace for like 237 or higher, and then all of a sudden we see things slow down in the fourth, which you've seen time and time again in the playoffs. And look, the different in the regular season, it was something to look at that these games slowed down a little bit for the Cavs and Pacers. But I mean, the difference really now is the Pacers defense is pretty legit, and their offense is so high powered that it seems like they really exhaust teams down the stretch. So you see other teams, their two opponents thus far have gone from like a 129 offensive rating in the third quarter to 108 in the fourth, which is sixth best in the playoffs. They've gone from giving up the most field goal attempts in the paint in the third quarter to the second fewest paint points in the fourth. So like it's just your shot quality is going way down. Fifth fewest attempts overall in the paint in the fourth. And yeah, on the Cavs side, we don't know who's playing, obviously, but if Mobley were to be a go, that would obviously help because they play slower, they have lower 3-point volume with him, and he's the defensive player of the year. So, I mean, not much more to add there. I just think it's playoff basketball, man. It's going to slow down.
Yeah, fourth quarter stuff, I can get next to. I like to look at that live as well. So, if you hit it before the game, there oftentimes in the playoffs, I think you are likely to probably get a better number. I actually don't have any data on that, but I would assume that if like you're getting around 50 points in the fourth quarter, that's usually what you're seeing in the playoffs. And then oftentimes you might see like a 47.5, depending on how the game's going. But my first pick isn't over for the game, as you alluded to. And I can't get away from 229 because I can't really get away from making this thing closer to like 233 when these teams match up. The things telling me that are really like, obviously the head-to-head so far this season is a big part of all this. But, the key stats coming into play here are the games that they played when they had their full squad. There was a couple games that went under with these teams this season, and in those games there's pretty clear reasoning. One, the Pacers weren't the same team in January when these teams faced off. The other thing would be, and that was one of the unders, the other under was at the very end of the season in April when nobody played for either team other than Jared Allen for like 10 minutes because he wanted to get his 82 games record. But other than that, it was like it's a lot different. I don't know what to do necessarily with the other guys playing, but I'm not really worried about Donnie making sure that this thing stays at a pretty high pace, in part because like I don't think the Cavs have the defense to stop the Pacers. That's really what a lot of this is predicated on. And you kind of brought it up that like the Pacers are the ones doing this earlier in the game, like second quarter, third quarter, we saw 70-point totals essentially or higher in the second and third quarters of at least game two. I actually don't remember game one specifically, but I know that's where most of the points were scored is first, second, and third quarters for sure. And in the first quarter, this last first quarter was another massive under because the Pacers just came out completely stale, specifically Siakam and Halliburton and some Nembhard to start the game as well in the first quarter. And nobody but Miles Turner, essentially. Nobody not named Miles Turner had it going at all for the Pacers in the first quarter. And then in the second and third quarters, we saw them come roaring back, and that's a big part of it. I don't think they feel like they're out of pretty much any game. So that all alludes to comes to this. I mean, I think this game will probably be. One of them has been at 101.5. One of them has been about 97.5 in this series so far. But I would imagine that like the Cavs don't think that they can really rest on their laurels defensively because I don't think they have it defensively, and I think they know that there's too many mismatches on the court for the Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, certainly with the number of injuries they're dealing with to key guys, they might not have as much faith in the defense. I like Jared Allen points while we get into the player props here. 13.5 at pretty good odds here. And I actually hope Garland comes back. But I mean, if Garland and or Mobley and or Hunter not in there, obviously that's just more opportunity. You look at double-double in 9 of his last 10 full games without Mobley, averaging 18.5 and 73% shooting versus, 13 points per game with Mobley. So this line would definitely be mispriced if Mobley winds up not going. If he's ineffective or plays limited minutes, you should be getting a much higher line on Jared Allen. If Garland returns, I mean, that's perfect. Garland is the pick and roll partner for Jared Allen, and the Cavs run so much more pick and roll when they actually have Darius Garland to do that. And that's led to 5 more points per game this season for Allen when Garland's in there and 1.5 more free throws per game because he's just getting the ball in the pocket right there and going up. And like I said, with the Pacers, I mean, they allow field goal attempts at the rim. It was both post All-Star break and in these playoffs. They're fourth most in that department. Down the stretch, it might slow down, but I mean, Miles Turner has had trouble limiting JA for sure. His last 4 regular season games against the Pacers, 20 points a game, 76% shooting, 7 free throw attempts per game. And in this series, he's 13 for 16 in the paint. He's second on the team in points per touch, and he's getting 17 a game, of course, because Mobley's been in and out to a degree. But look, even if Mobley comes back, like I still think JA as the healthier pick and roll partner is going to get fed.
The healthier pick and roll partner and the better matchup. Like, I mean, Miles Turner has been a guy who's been known for blocks at times, but as far as a one-on-one defender against Jared Allen, like, yeah, I like Jared Allen. And as a guy who goes for blocks, that's a big part of Miles Turner's issues. Reason he doesn't get a lot of defensive rebounds is the way that he does help out on defense and is not great at it. I mean, to be fair to him, like this Pacers defense just hemorrhages points down low, which you alluded to, they've got better at. But I like the Jared Allen matchup a little bit more anyway because of Siakam's defense. He and Mobley seem to cancel each other out. And man, Siakam, like what? Yeah, I don't know what's up with that dude. You would have thought that last game would have been the game to really just show your dominance, and he didn't do that. So he's had this habit of sort of just like disappearing for a while, right? After 2 big games, then he just kind of disappears. He's sort of on that track right now in a similar sort of spot that he was last playoffs, where it was like kill the Bucks, nowhere to be found until the Knicks series, pretty good, and then does really well in the Celtics series. And it's kind of weird. The matchups don't necessarily change too much for him, and I don't know what to do with him mentally. So I'm kind of out on that. But I think defensively, he's still a better matchup or better defender to go ahead and guard Mobley. So I like Allen to bring it back to your point. But to close it out here, I got to go under on our boy. Send it in, Jerome. We got to go under on Ty on the assists, 4.5 dimes. And like, look, I know that we love what he's done. One, if there's optimism that Garland is playing, then 4.5 is definitely too high. So let's just start there that like you could take a little bit of a risk and bet this right now because if Garland plays, this is way too high. He's gotten this 5 assists in 1 game that he's played with Donnie and Darius. I also put DeAndre Hunter in the filters there to see just to make sure it was like after the trade, right? And the games that D Hunter's playing. If D Hunter doesn't play though, I don't know that the assists are better for him. If he's on the second unit playing without DeAndre Hunter, well, who's he passing to then? I mean, it's gonna have to be some Sam Merrill stuff, but we know that like this is a defense that is taking away the spot up, the catch and shoot, and the guys off ball, which they wildly for the first like half of the season, they were in the bottom 10 limiting spot ups, catch and shoot. They were a totally different defense than last season, and it's all come back around since even right before the All-Star break. They started getting up on shooters, not double teaming anymore, playing the Rick Carlisle defense that we're used to, and that's a big part of the Ty Jerome thing. And why, like, look, at the end of the day, he's not bad for points. He's probably getting Benny Mathurin a lot on the second. Oh, probably he is getting a lot of Benny Mathurin on defense as the guy trying to limit Ty Jerome when he's on the second unit. When Ty Jerome's playing in the starting lineup, obviously slightly different situation there, but it's actually not a better matchup. I don't know if he'll start in this game. He was horrible last game, and so I'm also like willing to say, like, I kind of those of us who have followed Ty Jerome, when we watch him play and we're like, man, this dude looks really, really good right now. We're like, yeah, he looks really, really good for 22 minutes. He is not really, really good for 40 minutes. And there's some guys that are like that to a degree. That's clearly Ty. Like the increase in minutes past like 25 to 30 minutes doesn't really get you more. There's some big time sort of deficiencies that come into play at that point in the game. And so I don't think he's right for that. And in this matchup on the road, I'll take him under on 4.5 on the dimes.
Yeah, you don't know what to do with the points at this point with Garland out. I mean, I would expect him to bounce back as a scorer if he is forced into that starting role still. I mean, 2 points is an outlier. He's not Pat Spencer, right? But it is sort of the same kind of theory where he's just like comes off the bench and people are like, whoa, I didn't know you had that in your game, and I didn't know you were going to be that aggressive and talk that much shit. But that's who Ty Jerome is capable of being all season. Large enough sample size to know he can get buckets, but that's the thing. He's looking for a shot. Yeah, I mean, I like Strus for playmaking still, even if all these guys are back, and even more than Jerome, I think. Yeah.
Yep, that adds up. But that is all the time we have for you in this one. Definitely make sure to sub to that channel. We've also got an episode up for that Western Conference game on Friday night with the Nuggets and the Thunder. Very interested to see actually your takes on that one, Nate. So hope to see you guys in that one. But until we do see you next, happy betting.